So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. You get back here, BSN Network. This is BSN Network Podcast here today. When I am recording this, it is Sunday, March 20th. This is a pre-recorded episode today, so I'm pre-recording this on a Sunday night here, Sunday, March 20th, and when this goes up on YouTube, it will be Monday, March 21st, so a lot to get to today. I'm going to get right into it. Obviously, with how these podcasts work, my pre-recorded ones, they usually go a little differently, where I kind of give you the up-to-date news that goes on in sports, and then I kind of just talk about that, and then the New York Sports Update, I just go off of whatever's going on tomorrow. So tonight, obviously Rangers and Hurricanes got a game, and obviously more March Madness. We're not going to really talk much about that because that's more tomorrow's stuff that I would talk about. So that's the stuff going on right now. I really can't say much on that because it's happening now. In between periods, I decided to come on and do this video. So, it's kind of one of those things that's happening like now. So, how pre-recorded videos are going to work. I'm going to give you two topics, and I'm going to talk about the New York Sports Update. When I'm recording this, it's Sunday, March 20th. When you're watching this, it's going to be Monday, March 21st. And busy day tomorrow for me, so I won't have a podcast to do. I won't be able to do a podcast tomorrow. So I figured, you know what? Get a podcast done today. I think I plan on doing more of these Sunday night videos. They're pretty calm. I like them. They're not bad. It's kind of just, chilling out on a Sunday night talking sports. I don't mind that at all. So something I definitely enjoy doing, and for you guys to pump out content and get content to you guys out there no matter what. I think you guys would probably rather me upload a video that's pre-recorded than upload no video at all. So just trying my best to get as much content out there and work with my schedule that I've got and everything that I've, everything that comes within the schedule and stuff like that. So today's a pre-recorded video. I got two topics today, and then we're going to get to the New York Sports Update. It's going to be about two topics. I'm going to try to keep them about 15 minutes apiece and hopefully end this thing around 35-ish minutes. I don't want to get this to 45, 50. I want it to be about 30 to 35 minutes at max. So we're going to start off today with Deshaun Watson getting traded to the Cleveland Browns. Big news in the NFL. Another quarterback goes off the board. Wentz traded, Russell Wilson traded, now Deshaun Watson traded, and gets some big money along with it. You've had some other major trades along with free agency, and then as we all know, Stafford getting the big money, $160 million contract extension, a ton of stuff going on around the NFL, and Deshaun Watson, the saga in Houston is finally over. Watson's a Cleveland Brown, and the Baker Mayfield era in Cleveland is over. So two eras are now officially over. And what happens next will be soon to be seen as we see what Watson can do in a Browns uniform and where the Browns, what do the Browns do with Mayfield after this deal. I also want to get to the Trevor Story. He signed to the Trevor Story. We also want to get to Trevor Story signing with the Boston Red Sox today. The final big free agent out there, the final big free agent shortstop available. Carlos Correa signed with the Twins. Freddie Freeman to the Dodgers. Olsen to the Braves. Many other big signings as well have already been made. And Trevor Story was kind of last domino to fall. He goes from the Rockies to the East Coast with the Boston Red Sox. And big move for Boston. They get a big-time shortstop, a big-time hitter, a big-time bat. Fenway Park, green monster. It's going to be interesting to see. And that Fenway team, that Boston team is lethal. I'm going to give you their lineup and why, once again, this is kind of a wake-up call for the New York Yankees that shows us all why the Yankees are in trouble with their roster that they've got going right now. At least that's the way it seems. And then we're going to get to the New York Sports Update, finish off the podcast. Nets, Rangers, Islanders, Knicks, all that stuff as we get you ready for the week ahead in the world of sports. Alrighty, so a lot to get to today, short amount of time. This is BSN Podcast, and let's get right into it. Alrighty, so Deshaun Watson traded to the Cleveland Browns will reportedly sign a 5-year, $230 million contract extension. So the situation in Houston that lasted all of last season into all of last year and into this offseason has officially is over. Deshaun Watson has been dealt. The Houston Texans trade Deshaun Watson to the Cleveland Browns. The full trade details are as followed. So Watson goes to Cleveland. So the Texans are trading Deshaun Watson, a 2024 fourth-round pick, to the Cleveland Browns, and the Texans are getting in return a 2022 first-round pick, a 2023 first-round pick, a 2024 first-round pick. So 3 first-round picks, a 2023 third-round pick, and a 2024 fourth-round pick. So they get a whole lot of picks in return, 3 first-round picks in return for Deshaun Watson, and a 5th-round pick in 2024 and 2024 is being dealt to the Cleveland Browns, and this offseason continues to go crazy. This offseason continues to be wild, and we got ourselves another deal. And you have obviously had the Russell Wilson, trade, Carson Wentz trade, Trubisky to the Steelers. That they hope that they find their guy. All of these different moves, all of the craziness going on in the world of the NFL, and yet another domino has fallen. Devontae Adams going to the Raiders. A ton of moves, a ton of trades. It's so much action. It's been so exciting as a fan. And now another domino has fallen. That is Deshaun Watson going to the Cleveland Browns. And I look at this deal as this. Both teams get rid of their biggest question mark. Both teams get rid of their biggest thing. Now, Cleveland did not trade Baker Mayfield in this deal, but the expectation is within the coming days, within the coming weeks, by the week 1 of next year, Baker Mayfield will not be in Cleveland anymore. He will not be doing progressive commercials at whatever it is, First Energy Stadium in Cleveland, Ohio. That will not be it. As a matter of fact, he should do a commercial with a moving truck, or he should do a yard sale commercial like they already had on Progressive outside the stadium. That is no longer Baker Mayfield's house. Whenever he gets traded, wherever that is, Baker Mayfield's not going to be a Brown. So I look at this trade as both teams got rid of their biggest question mark, their biggest issue. The Houston Texans had a disgruntled quarterback in Deshaun Watson, who is very good. And when he's out there, he's a top 10 quarterback in the league, and you can't deny that. Obviously, last offseason, he requested a trade. Many teams were interested right off the bat. Nothing happened. They refused to trade him. Sat out all of last season. Now they fire their head coach, David Culley. Davis Mills showed some potential. And yet again, more and more rumors come out about him not wanting to be there, forced his way out, and the Texans finally come to the realization of, look, this guy's not going to play another down for us. Whether we want him to, no matter how hard we try, Deshaun Watson's not going to play another down for us. And that's the harsh reality. That's the reality I think the Texans and their GM, Nick Cassero, faced when they decided to make this move. And as for Cleveland, the reality was, look, you got to evaluate Baker Mayfield, and you got to say this. Have we surrounded him with weapons so far? Yes, they have. Has he been inconsistent? Yes. And ultimately, the big question was, going into this offseason, was he the guy? Was Baker Mayfield truly the guy in Cleveland to lead them above and beyond, lead them to Super Bowl, and great things like that? Was he the guy? When they first drafted him, the city of Cleveland thought, oh yeah, we got our guy. But it's been a very odd 4 years in Cleveland. It's been a very weird 4 years. And now you look at that draft class of Josh Rosen never panned out. Sam Darnold never panned out. Baker Mayfield now hasn't panned out. And I think out of those 3 guys I just named, Baker Mayfield will, now it's Baker Mayfield's turn. If he goes to another team, can he play at a high level? But you look at that 2018 draft class now at quarterbacks, and what an odd draft pick. What an odd draft class. The first 2 quarterbacks are, up to this point, busts. And it's the truth. And you could say whatever you want about Baker Mayfield. I know some people believe he's good. I know some people say, oh, well, he's kind of gotten a harsh treatment there in Cleveland. And I get both sides of it. I do. Because he's definitely had some moments of playing at a high level. And there's also been some moments of how in the world is this guy still quarterback? And there's moments of where, like I said, he's been very inconsistent. But it's crazy to think that the 2 quarterbacks taken that were battling to be the number 1 pick, 2 quarterbacks that everyone thought were generational talents, 4 years into their career are just who knows what their career, what's the future for them. We don't know what the future is for Baker Mayfield, and who even knows if Sam Darnold's going to be a starter ever again in his career. Because I think last season, the bad year in Carolina, Who knows if he's going to start this year? Who knows what's going to happen? Who really even knows? And if he does start this year and it goes real bad, well, that's it for Darnold. And it's the quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson that got drafted 32nd overall. It's the quarterbacks like Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming, the small name guys like that have been making the bigger impacts out of that quarterback draft. And that's pretty wild to think. The two big quarterbacks in that draft, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. And I love the Lamar Jackson pick out of the draft. But if you would have told a lot of people on draft night that the best quarterback coming out of that draft would have been Josh Allen, I think a lot of people would have called you crazy. Small name school, not a big name quarterback, a guy that needed to go to an organization that has been failing for so long. You know, it was almost like you went to Buffalo and you automatically failed. And what Josh Allen, and that front office and that coaching staff led by Sean McDermott has done there up in Buffalo is simply remarkable. They've turned their team into a laughingstock of the league, missed the postseason for 18 years, and now is contending for a Super Bowl, one of the best teams in the AFC, and one of the best teams in the NFL in general. And you have Josh Allen, a top 3 NFL quarterback. Baker Mayfield is not that. Sam Darnold was not that. So this trade not only reveals to us all that Baker Mayfield never panned out. It just shows us all that the 2018 draft class was such an odd class. Because, the two biggest name quarterbacks have stunk, and it's the other small names that have really come up big and are making huge strides with their respective franchises. Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, and like I just noted, Josh Allen up in Buffalo with the Bills. And I understand there's a lot of issues with the sexual assault claims and the sexual misconduct. I shouldn't say assault, I should just say misconduct. The 22 allegations or however many it was that came out about Deshaun Watson. And, obviously it was something that has been very well investigated. A lot of people have been very, in on the story. The reality is, up to this point, none of it's true. And that's where I stand with this. A lot of people are ripping the Browns for making this move. A lot of people don't think it's a fair move to make. Up to this point, all the sexual misconduct stuff that has come out about Deshaun Watson has not been true, has not been confirmed, has not been confirmed by anybody, or has not been confirmed to be true. Like I said, it hasn't been. So up to this point, Deshaun Watson, all those misconduct things up to this point are false and aren't true. So the people that are ripping them for signing him and signing him to a long-term extension, I don't agree with that, because he might get suspended this season. Maybe get suspended 2 to 4 weeks. I don't think anything crazy like that. But what you're getting, what Cleveland is getting is Cleveland fans should be super excited about this move. And I understand there's a little bit of a risk, but I think truly, if Cleveland knew that there was something really wrong with the allegations that came out against Deshaun Watson, they would not sign him to a 5-year, $230 million deal. They just wouldn't. And there's no other way to put it. They just would not sign him to a 5-year, $230 million deal. They wouldn't. And that's the reality of it. So the fact that they signed into a big deal like that, the fact that they gave him that massive deal, the fact that they traded for him in the first place, shows you that I think the Browns, their front office, I think knows that I don't think they must know that the allegations must not be true. Up to this point now, still more investigations and all that stuff that's got to come out. But up to this point, it seems as if it's not true. So, Browns get a top 10 quarterback, and I know he missed the season, but I mean, look at him, look at him in the past year, and I'll read you his stats in a second. Was top 10 in almost every major category. I mean, Deshaun Watson's a legit quarterback. And now the question is where does Baker Mayfield fall amongst the rest of the teams? Does he go to Indianapolis? Does he go to Seattle? I know some people, Giants fans, have brainstormed the idea of what it would be like to come to New York. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the most realistic destination for Baker Mayfield to go to is probably to go to Indianapolis. That's personally what I could see. That's just me. I could be wrong, but the reports, what are saying is his preferred destination would to be go to Indianapolis. And I could see Indianapolis being one of those teams aggressively getting a guy, looking for a guy like that. Wentz didn't work out. You hope that Mayfield can work out, something like that. But look, I mean, and another thing too, people could say, oh well, Jackson's last season, my bad. Watson's last season with the Texans didn't go as planned. Well, I mean, yeah, because they gave away his best receiver. He goes on a Browns team with Amari Cooper. I mean, he's joining right on a team with a true, legit number one threat. And that's the ultimate takeaway from Baker's career there in Cleveland. He had weapons. The weapons were there. He had the pieces. They gave him Beckham. They gave him Landry. They gave him Hooper. They gave him Ngochu. Gave him Chubb. They gave him a solid offensive line. They gave him weapons. He just did not do anything with that. And that's the one takeaway you could take away as a Browns fan. It's not a what-if thing. It's you gave him weapons. He just did not do anything with them. That's the question other teams got to face if you go out and sign a Baker Mayfield or trade for him. Is if you give him weapons, what can he do with them? Because he got weapons in Cleveland, didn't do anything with them. Is he going to do anything else with another team? Definitely an interesting situation for sure. So, Deshaun Watson traded to the Browns. I think it's a great move for the Browns. Like I said, I mean, a massive upgrade at the quarterback position. I don't even think there's a comparison. It's not even fair to make a comparison between Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield at all. I mean, it's clear as day Deshaun Watson's the better quarterback and the quarterback most primed to make a run, to help the team make a run in the postseason. All right, so the Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson waived his no-trade clause for a move to the Cleveland Browns, the team announced on Friday. Watson confirmed the news on Instagram per ESPN's Jake Trotter. He just wrote, "Let's go, dog pound, ready to work." And he seems happy. I mean, he's been wanting out of there for the past 15 months. Finally got his wish. Watson will get a fully guaranteed 5-year, $230 million contract, according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. The deal will break a record for the most guaranteed money in a contract per Trotter of ESPN stats. The most guaranteed money on a single contract in NFL history. So I thought these were some interesting numbers. Watson now $230 million. Aaron Rodgers $150.7 million. Josh Allen $150 million. Patrick Mahomes $141.5 million. Dak Prescott $126 million. So those are the biggest guaranteed contracts in NFL history. Some of the more recent ones are up there. David Malgueta of Athletes first negotiated Watson's new contract, which reportedly include a base salary of $1 million for the 2022 season. In addition, this move signals the end of Baker Mayfield's era in Cleveland. The Browns are expected to trade him per Rappaport. He prefers a trade to the Indianapolis Colts, according to Jeff Howe of The Athletic. The Browns, Carolina Panthers, New Orleans Saints, and Atlanta Falcons were the final 4 teams in the running for Watson's services. Numerous reports indicated that the Saints and the Falcons were the final teams in the running, and that the Browns and Panthers were out. However, the Browns somehow moved back into the picture. You wonder how true those reports were, if those reports were true at all. I know the Saints, definitely those teams were involved, but you wonder how true it was that the Browns were out of it. Watson, a 3-time Pro Bowler, did not play in 2021. He made a trade request in January 2021, the same month that capped the Pro Bowl season in which he led the league in passing yards. In March and April of 2021, 22 women filed civil lawsuits against Watson alleging sexual assault and misconduct during message sessions. The alleged incidents are said to have occurred between March 30th, 2020 and March 5th, 2021, per Madeline Copeland and Danielle Peraza of Sports Illustrated. Some more on the civil lawsuits I won't really get into. More on just that stuff. And then the decision led to numerous beginning aggressive pushes to land the signal caller. The NFL and its own investigation into Watson's action, and it could still live a lengthy suspension against the ex-Clemson quarterback. Per Robinson's conversation with other teams, it appears a 6-game suspension could be on the table. So he probably will get suspended, but it doesn't look like he actually ever did it. But just for the whole allegations and stuff like that, he probably will have to serve a suspension. None of this was enough to stop numerous NFL teams from trying to trade for Watson. The Browns won those sweepstakes, and Watson's tenure in Houston is over. And I feel like to sum up Watson's tenure, from a personal standpoint, amazing. I mean, was dominant. From a team perspective, underachieved, without a doubt. And I think it's also a little tough to because they traded away his number one receiver and got back a washed-up running back in David Johnson. But look, right, in 2020, this was his stats. Now, this was not last year. This was in 2020. He sat out all of last season. He had 4,823 yards. That was first in the NFL. 33 touchdowns. That was tied for 7th. Interceptions, he had 7. That was tied for 7th. And a QBR of 63.7. That was 12th. So he was top 10 in all the major categories. He was first in passing yards and top 7 in touchdowns and picks and top 12 in QBR. So at 26 years old, he's still very young. He's still got a lot of gas left in the tank. I love the deal for the Browns. I think it's a great deal for them. I think it's a great move. It's a massive upgrade over Mayfield. Mayfield's like a C quarterback. Watson's like an A. That's the type of upgrade if I had to give it to you. I'd give Mayfield like a 5 out of 10 on the quarterback scale. Watson's like an 8.5. Watson's up there with some of the elite guys in the league without a doubt. One question is, is the year off going to do anything to him? And you just hope that he doesn't, because I know some players have taken a year off and they were never the same. So you just got to hope that he's the same player. But another big trade goes down in the NFL as Watson's heading to the Browns. And most likely Mayfield's to the Colts, but we'll see what all pans out with him within the next coming days and weeks and so on and so forth. All right, so coming up next here, I'm going to get into Trevor Story signing with the Red Sox. So the last big-time domino has fallen in the MLB regular season as spring training continues to ramp up. Watch the Yankees game today. They lost 8-7. It's spring training, so it doesn't matter, but it was great to watch some baseball. And the final big domino has fallen. Trevor Story from the Rockies, free agent, signs with the Boston Red Sox. We'll get to that and much more coming up next. All right, so welcome you back here up at the podcast. So last big domino has fallen in the MLB as the Red Sox have officially signed Trevor Story. Trevor Story agrees to a 6-year, $140 million contract to the Boston Red Sox, and he will be playing second base. So for a guy that's usually a shortstop, he will be playing second base. And I got to admit, when this deal first went down, and I knew they had to figure out something, whether it was DH or something like that the Red Sox were going to need to do something with the positions in the infield. Because you have Devers at third, you have Bogaerts at short, and moving Bogaerts at all to another position or moving Bogaerts anywhere wouldn't make much sense. So you have Dahlbeck at first, Devers at third, Bogaerts at second, or Bogaerts at short, and you're going to put Trevor Story at second. So that makes the most sense. And when this deal first went down, I think it's an excellent deal for the Red Sox in many ways. I'll get to that more. But when this deal first went down, I was like, okay, this is going to cause some interesting things. Because your DH is probably JD Martinez. So are you going to swap Bogaerts? I don't see that happening. Or are you going to put Story at second? Because Story has come out publicly and said that he wants to play shortstop. But look, the money was there. He's going to a team that can win. He's going to a team that's going to try to win right now. And a 6-year deal, $140 million contract is not a bad pay amount. And the Red Sox get a big time bat to their lineup. And the AL East, I mean, you just look at the AL East. And like I said, today I had a great and really enjoyed spring training. So if I sound like I'm a little angry, it's because I am with the Yankees. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Yankees. I talked more about them today on my Apple podcast, Bub's Talking Baseball, which I do every Sunday. That's all uploaded on Apple Podcasts if you're interested in listening, if you haven't already. And I talked more about that today. So if you're more interested in my take on the Yankees roster, you can go listen to that. That's Bub's Talking Baseball on Apple Podcasts. Upload those every Sunday if you're interested. I don't want to force you. You can, if you want to watch, you can. Greatly appreciate it. You don't have to if you don't want to. You're supporting me anyway, watching these. Whatever. Back to the point. But I watched baseball today. I watched spring training. It was awesome. It was great. And you're going to get where I'm coming from in a second. And it was great. I was watching the Yankees. And, they lost 8-7. But look, and they blew it. But look, I mean, it's spring training. It doesn't mean anything. As a fan, it doesn't mean anything. For the players, it does, because players are ramping up, getting ready. Prospects want to show what they're capable of. Non-roster invites want to either show the Yankees or any team that they're on, or show other teams across the league that, hey, maybe I signed somebody, sign a minor league deal, get my name back into the picture, of trying to be a major league ball player again. So it's big for definitely some players, and obviously you still want to win as a fan, but it doesn't matter. I mean, the Yankees destroyed Tigers opening game at George M. Steinbrenner Field in July is going to mean absolutely nothing. So, it was still great to watch baseball. And as a Yankee fan, obviously you go into the season definitely not as optimistic as you would like, not as confident as you would like, not feeling as good as you did last year or even the year before that with the roster we have. And that is kind of where I tie into my point now. Like, I enjoyed watching baseball today. I loved it all. But yet again, with this Trevor Story signing, it frustrates me as a Yankee fan, and it's a great signing for a Red Sox. It's a great signing for the Boston Red Sox, but the AL East just continues to get better and better and better. And, better and better and better and better, and this and that and this and that. Like Matt Chapman to the Blue Jays, now Trevor Story to the Rockies. You add that, or Trevor Story to the Red Sox. You add that all on to, Hyun-Jin Ryu, Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, Vlad Guerrero, George Springer, Teoscar Hernandez, Bo Bichette, just some of the guys that are on that Blue Jays roster. And then you look at the Red Sox, and you look at guys like Xander Bogaerts, Rafael Devers, JD Martinez, Nathan Eovaldi leading the rotation. And, you look at a guy like a Trevor Story now getting in. Bobby Dahlbeck, who's young and got a nice, bright future ahead of him. Christian Vasquez, who's got some power from the catcher position. Bring back a veteran in Jackie Bradley Jr. There. You have Kike Hernandez leading off, who's kind of your multi-dimensional guy who really made a name for himself last season in the playoffs. And you look at this roster, Alex Verdugo, you look at the Red Sox roster, you look at the Blue Jays roster, and especially now with the Trevor Story signing, I mean, man, oh man, the AL East is stacked. The AL East has got a ton of talent. There is a lot to look forward to if you're a Red Sox or a Blue Jays fan. And oh, by the way, you have a Rays team that might not on paper, might not look as talented, but they got some pieces there too that can win, that can be competitive, and definitely can win games. And then you have the New York Yankees and Baltimore Orioles, obviously. Baltimore Orioles are in a league of their own. They stink. But this move not only solidifies for the Red Sox of how much better they are and how good they are, but it also just shows the revolving thing in the AL East of spending money, teams making moves, Blue Jays and Red Sox. If I had to choose right now, Blue Jays and Red Sox are my favorites to win the AL East. Because you know what the Red Sox are getting? You look at the Red Sox infield from left to right, it's dominant. You have Bogaerts and Devers on the left side. I mean, that's perfect. I mean, those guys have already worked. I mean, that's a perfect combo that is going to be there for a long time. Then you add Trevor Story at second. I don't think many people, having Bogaerts, Story, and Devers all in the same infield is as good as it gets. I mean, you're talking about guys that are top 5, top 10 at their positions. Then you go to first base, maybe not as good as they've hoped, but it's Bobby Dahlbeck. A guy, young player, got a lot of talent, got some, showed some progress last season, developing. But still a guy that, if he lives up to his potential, can be really dominant. That's how good he can be, and we've seen that. We've seen slight signs of it. But the Boston Red Sox and the pitching rotation is led by Nathan Eovaldi. And I know that Chris Sale's injured, but we saw what Eovaldi could do last season. We've seen what Eovaldi did in the postseason, the wild card game, and how much he's evolved into a legit ace in Boston. A lot to like if you're a Red Sox fan. And what Trevor Story brings to the table just builds more of an incredible infield. Defensively is great. And a guy who, plays a lot, and he's got a lot of power, and that's going to play well in Fenway Park, especially for a righty who's got a lot of power. Green Monster, short left field, 310 up on the Green Monster. I know some people are like, oh, well, he's a high altitude, he hit a lot better at home than he did on the road. That's any player. I mean, any player, you put any player at high altitude, they're going to hit better there than they're on the road. But Trevor Story is one of those rare players that's like a perfect mix of, he's a perfect mix of like a power hitter and still a guy that can get on base and hit some for some contact. He's not all power where it's home runs, strikeouts. But it is a lot of home runs, definitely some strikeouts, but there's going to be a lot of contact in there as well. And I think that's something that goes unnoticed about Trevor Story's game, because we all talk about the power, and rightfully so. He was in the home run derby last season. He's had tremendous power playing at the high altitude there in Coors Field in Denver, Colorado. A lot of players have a good time playing there. It's not a very pitcher-friendly ballpark at all. And, obviously you look at that, and, you look at Trevor Story from that perspective, and he showed a lot of power. And I think a big part of what his game, I think, is going to show this season is not only his power ability, but I also think a lot of the contact. Because maybe some of those home runs that he was getting at Coors might not be home runs on the East Coast in Boston, where the air is not as thin. So his contact ability is going to be shown a much more. His ability to get on base, his ability to drive in runs. I mean, Story, I believe he's like a 272 hitter. I know he had a little bit of a down year last year. Batting average was down to about 251, but he still was a power hitter. He still was cranking in a lot of home runs, still was in the home run derby, still was a guy that standing up there was a threat in your lineup. And the Red Sox add another guy like that. And you look at the Red Sox lineup now, and you have a power hitter in JD Martinez. You have a guy in Rafael Devers that can hit for some serious power. I think it's actually a little under the radar because I think a lot of people see his defense, how good it is. His offense is really good. You have a nice power hitting catcher in Christian Vasquez that can definitely hit. Now you add a power hitting second base. It's a Red Sox lineup from 1 through 9 that has power everywhere, that has capability to crank in 5, 6, 7 runs a night and kind of take some of the stress off of their pitching. And you also have a great defense that's backing up your ace Nate Eovaldi and the rest of that staff, that 5-man rotation. And believe me, I hate saying this because I don't like the Red Sox. I don't want to see them do good. But from an honest baseball fan, taking my fandom out of it, this is a very good signing for the Boston Red Sox. And for the Yankees, they missed out on another piece, and that's frustrating. Because the Yankees, there was options out there was guys out there was pieces out there was things the Yankees needed to do, guys that could have really helped the New York Yankees that the New York Yankees missed out on. And that's super frustrating as a fan. And the Red Sox make an excellent signing, and you look at the two rosters in the AL East now, the Blue Jays are stacked, Red Sox are stacked. What are the Yankees? That's the real question. That's frustrating as a fan right now. So, Red Sox get Trevor Story. The big not the shenanigans, but all the big names are officially off the board. As we all know, Seager was off the board early before the lockout. But post-lockout, Freeman signs with the Dodgers. Correa signs with the Twins. Trevor Story to the Red Sox. Matt Olson to the Braves in a trade. So, free agency slowly came to an end today with Trevor Story, the last name out there. Had it kind of between about 4 teams, I believe. And ended up going with the Boston Red Sox. 6-year, $140 million deal. And you look at the Red Sox lineup. It very well could look like this. So batting first would be Kike Hernandez playing center. Batting second playing third base would be Rafael Devers. Batting third playing shortstop Xander Bogaerts. Batting fourth playing DH JD Martinez. Batting fifth playing second base Trevor Story. Batting sixth playing left field Alex Verdugo. Batting seventh playing first Bobby Dahlbeck. Batting eighth catching Christian Velasquez, and batting ninth and playing right, the former Red Sox that's now is back after a short time with the Brewers, Jackie Bradley Jr. So a lineup with them some depth and a lineup with a lot of power and a lot of it's going to be very interesting to see how things shake out between the Blue Jays and the Red Sox team. Two teams that have spent a lot of money, two teams that are going all out. Which team's going to really go all out and get to that next level and ultimately win? We'll see. So Trevor Story agrees to a 6-year, $140 million contract to play second base for the Boston Red Sox. So shortstop Trevor Story became one of the last big dominoes to fall on MLB free agency Sunday as he agreed to a contract with the Boston Red Sox, according to Bob Nightingale of USA Today. Jim Bowden of CBS Sports reported that Story will move from shortstop to second base in Boston since Xander Bogaerts occupies the shortstop position. Story spent the first 6 years of his MLB career with the Colorado Rockies, posting a per 162 game average of 34 home runs, 98 RBIs, 101 runs, and 22 stolen bases per Baseball Reference. He also hit .272 with an .863 OPS. The 29-year-old is a two-time All-Star and a two-time Silver Slugger who has finished 12th or better in the National League MVP voting on 3 occasions. It will be interesting to see how Story fares without playing at a hitter-friendly Coors Field half the time. Story hit .303 with a .972 OPS in Denver from 2016 and 2021, but those figures dipped to .241, .752 OPS away from home. So it was much better at home than he was on the road. And it is a big drop-off from batting .303 to batting .241 on the road, and I get that. But that could be said for a lot of players. And I'm sure if you break down player splits, I would love to see Chris Bryant's numbers this season at home and on the road. I bet you I could put money on it. It's another Rockies are in a weird situation, too. It's like they lose Story and Arenado the past couple of seasons, and now they bring in Chris Bryant. So it's like, all right, they're kind of back, but they're not at the same time. Like, Rockers are an interesting situation. I bet you, if you look at the stats, I'll put money on it, that at the end of this season, if I remember, I'll check. If you look at Chris Bryant's home and away splits, I bet you this season, home, he has an batting average of above 300, and away probably won't be near that. Maybe it will. But I bet you it will be a lot different than his home and away with his time with San Francisco and obviously with the Cubs. In terms of how much more success he'll have at home. And that's with any player. I mean, every time players go on the road in Coors Field, it's just thin air, not a pitcher-friendly ballpark. It is what it is. So I don't think it's a concern at all for players. I don't think a player that plays at Coors Field automatically is a risky signing just because he took advantage of Coors Field. He's got to get maybe a little bit more used to playing on the road. That's just how it is. He's still one of the game's top power bats at shortstop, however, and that will be welcome. It will be a welcome sight for the Red Sox as they land one of the top free agents in this year's market. John Heyman of MLB Network and Odyssey Sports reported Boston's interest and story on the December 6th edition of Odyssey Sports Big Time Baseball podcast. Story I have heard 3 times: Seattle, Houston, and Boston. So it would be interesting to see with Boston. Obviously, he could start out at second base potentially, and we'll see what goes on from there. With Story moving to second base, he gives Boston a loaded infield alongside Bogarts and third baseman Rafael Devers. The Red Sox made the American League Championship Series last year and finished 2 victories shy of winning the AL pennant. Adding Story should make Boston the top contender for the AL crown as the power-hitting middle infielder joins a Red Sox team that posted a .777 OPS last season. That was third best in the major leagues last year. So Trevor Story to the Boston Red Sox, and the last big domino to fall this offseason has officially fallen with Story going to the Red Sox. Alrighty, so let's get to the rest of the stuff here. Like I said, so this is pre-recorded. So we're going to start off with the NBA. Tomorrow the Nets play. That's today, actually. So let me get to the games here. We got Cavs, Lakers, I'll take the Cavs. Hornets, Pelicans, I'll take the Hornets. Pistons, Trailblazers, I'll take the Pistons. 76ers, Heat, I'll take the Heat. Thunder, Celtics, I'll take the Celtics. Bulls, Raptors, I'll take the Bulls. Wizards, Rockets, I'll take the Wizards. And Mavericks, Timberwolves, I'll take the Mavericks. Nets play tonight. Nets come into this game 37-34. Jazz come into this game 44-26. This game's on tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on NBA TV. You can also find on Yes Network. None of the percentages out, nor the spread since I'm pre-recording this. But I'll take the Nets. And as for the NHL, only 4 games on, so not a ton. Bruins, Canadiens, I'll take the Bruins. Wild, Golden Knights, I'll take the Wild. Avalanche, Oilers, I'll take the Avalanche. And Ducks, Predators, I will take the Predators. March Madness today has a little bit of a day off until Thursday is when the Elite 8 game, or Sweet 16, I should say, games begin. And as for fantasy basketball, I'm gonna win the matchup here. So right now I'm winning the current matchup on Sunday, 1,060 to 754. So I'm gonna move on in the postseason. And today I've got going. Hold on, let me just get this set up. Today I've got going Donovan Mitchell, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Brandon Ingram, Miles Bridges, Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre Jr., and Darius Garland. So a lot of injuries, a lot of guys out right now, which stinks, but just going to have to find a way to deal with it and going to have to find a way to get a win and go for the championship. So that's that. Go for the championship. Let me see here. Let me just make sure. Okay, so I am wrong. My bad. So this week's games continue. So right now I'm winning 1,060 to 761 when I'm recording this. So these games go on and on and on for another week. And then we have 2 weeks of championships. So I forgot about that. It goes all the way until the end of the regular season. So that's my fault. I messed up on that. So anyway, winning right now in fantasy basketball. So, all right, that will do it for today. Like I said, another pre-recorded pod. I actually don't mind doing these. I don't mind them at all. I think they're pretty good. Any way to get content out to you guys with my schedule, it's been pretty busy. So, I think it's easier to do these where I have all the time, and I feel like doing them. and they're also longer. They're more in depth for you guys instead of doing a quick 15-minute one where I kind of just throw a bunch of things out there, end it, and boom, upload it quickly. I figured, it's good to do one of these. So that will do it. So I will see you all back here on Tuesday. It's weird saying that because it's a Sunday. So see you all back here on Tuesday. Or when you're watching this, that will be tomorrow. So see you all back here tomorrow. And as always, hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching.